The Lexus brand launched in India earlier this year with 3 models rather than just one, and now only 7 months later they've come up with their next model, the NX SUV. It's an entry-level model that will sit alongside the ES in the company's model range and will bring in a whole host of new buyers, or at least that's what Lexus hopes. And though the prices have not been revealed at the time of doing this review, we have been told to expect them starting from about 60 lakh rupees ex-showroom. Now that puts it in a very interesting position, just above the likes of the Mercedes GLC and Audi Q5, and just below the likes of the Mercedes GLE and the Jaguar F-Pace. So does this very niche luxury hybrid SUV have what it takes to fit in that small little niche in our market? That's what we're here to find out. And when I say niche, that extends to the way it looks. There's simply nothing out there that looks quite as striking or polarizing as the Japanese brand's unique design language. This F-Sport trim has a few sporty add-ons, but even the regular luxury trim gets most of the sharp angular details. There are some nice looking 18-inch alloy wheels, and yes, of course, that massive gaping Lexus grille. Things remain very niche on the inside with an interior design that's wonderfully wacky. It's an array of contrasting shapes and surfaces, each of them made with the same incredible attention to quality as the rest of the Lexus range. What I really like about the interior is that it doesn't feel like you're in a lesser Lexus. It feels right up there with the bigger, more expensive models like the RX. There's nothing entry-level about the equipment list either. This car is fully loaded. You get a fully leather-wrapped cabin with a choice of 11 colors. This is in addition to 12 exterior colors and 3 interior trim insert choices. The front seats are of course powered, but they're also heated. There's a huge single-piece glass roof, an astonishing sounding Mark Levinson audio system, 360-degree cameras and navigation, but no Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. The semi-digital dials are crisp and clear, and the sharp 10.3-inch infotainment screen, unlike other Lexus cars, is now operated by a touchpad, which though better, is not quite as intuitive as what you get from rivals. The luxury trim gets a bit more equipment like cooled front seats and a powered rear seat fold and recline function, but it's the F-Sport that's likely to cost a bit more. And finally, there's the increasingly popular kick-to-open boot function, which leads to an unusually small boot. But that's because underneath the packaging is a full-size spare wheel. Now the back seat of the Lexus NX is very comfortable to be in. The seat is nice and soft and supportive. I've got a great view out front, I've got big windows to look out the side, and I've got plenty of knee room. The big disappointment is headroom. I'm 5'7" and I've just about barely got enough room, so people over 6 foot will be a little uncomfortable back here. A cool feature though is that you can recline the backrest a little bit if you prefer it this way. Now ride quality in the NX is actually rather good, especially at the back, which is set up slightly softer than the front. In fact, you do even get a bit of vertical movement as you go over undulations, but it's all within an acceptable level. Lexus says the NX is meant for owners who drive themselves and their families around, mostly in the city, so I think it's more prudent to see what it's like to drive. So like the RX and the ES, this NX SUV is a hybrid. In fact, it uses the same 2.5-litre naturally aspirated petrol engine mated to electric motors as the ES sedan. The difference is the NX is all-wheel drive thanks to an electric motor powering the rear wheels. Thanks to the electric propulsion, you do move off the line quite swiftly and briskly. but unfortunately it's not the same kind of strong, consistent wave of torque that you'd get from a diesel engine. Because electric motors make their torque instantly, what you get is an immediate response off the line from the NX. And of course, at low speeds, provided you have enough charge in the battery, it works as an electric vehicle with zero emissions and zero fuel consumption. And zero noise. However, once you're past that initial phase of low-speed driving, you do get into this car's mid-range, and that's when the shortcomings of both the engine and the CVT gearbox start to show. The engine gets a bit noisy, and there's a lot of rubber band effect from the CVT, and that means it just holds on to revs endlessly, and that can be a little bit frustrating. The result is that out on the highway, it can feel a little bit strained when you push it a little harder for an overtaking maneuver. And there are two versions of the NX SUV, the Luxury and the F-Sport. The F-Sport is the one I'm driving now. They have a few cosmetic differences, and the Luxury version does have a bit more equipment. But the F-Sport does have one party trick: an engine noise enhancer, like so. What it does is basically play the car's engine note through the Mark Levinson audio system, and it depends on whether you're a fan of this or not, but it can be quite cool at times. So the NX is also a pretty tidy handler. It's got a quick steering that's got a nice amount of heft to it, and body control is pretty good as well. In fact, the only thing that keeps it from being a truly fun to drive car is the powertrain. The other thing that takes a little bit of getting used to are the brakes, because this being a hybrid, they are regenerative, and that means you get a bit of a wooden feeling at the brake pedal, like so. Can be quite aggressive with the way it stops. Now, like some of its siblings, the NX is a truly unique proposition simply because of its hybrid powertrain. There's nothing quite like it at this price point. But speaking of which, at first it might seem a little bit expensive for its size, but when you factor in the high quality, well-built cabin and the loads of equipment they've packed this car with, you realize that it might just be worth it. It is a little bit short on practicality, particularly in the back seat and the boot, but then those are not this car's strengths. This car is all about giving you that feel-good factor, and I must say it does that in spades. So yes, it's a niche product and a slightly expensive one at that, but Lexus believes, and I think you should too, that this is something very, very unique indeed.